Less Taken contains content that may not be suitable for all audiences. Listeners' discretion is advised.
Less Taken.
Tony Pickman can't sleep, but this time it has little to do with his newborn. It's footsteps, all hours of the night. His wife Deborah has found some way of managing to get some shut-eye. She sleeps on her side as he sits upright, wondering what keeps running up and down the stairwell. It seemingly happens at random. Just when he's ready to drift back to sleep, there's this loud pitter-patter, and then he's restless again. Tony assumes it's the cats running around, maybe even the dog. He's let the commotion slide for some time now, but no longer. He's tired of all this, and well, just plain tired. Tonight, it stops. Slipping out from underneath the covers, careful not to disturb Deborah, Tony leaves the master bedroom. Slowly, he ambles into the hallway, toward the stairs.
Here, kitty,
He whispers as he draws closer to the steps.
what are you guys doing?
When he reaches the staircase, Tony is surprised by the absence of his feline friends. Though they echoed throughout the halls, the footstep Tony's been hearing, they sound so light. It must be the cats. But here he is, and they're nowhere in sight. Granted, Tony can only see so far downstairs. The bottom 4 or 5 steps are completely shrouded by shadows. It's possible that his furry companions are at the very bottom, staring up at him, ready to resume the chaos the moment Tony heads back for the master bedroom. So, he stalls for a moment. While peering into the darkness, Tony feels a light rumble building, shaking the steps. The sound of the footsteps loudens, intensifies. He's certain that someone is running up the stairs at full speed, ready to trample him down. Tony's about to flee when what hits him isn't a someone, but a something. It's a fierce, cold gust, chilling him to the core, leaving him to quiver at the top of the staircase. He knows something ran right through him. But what? A cold breeze? Tony looks down the stairs again, but sees nothing. But then, he hears one of the most terrifying sounds he's ever heard. The echo of children laughing. And that sound is coming straight toward him. You're listening to Sally Part 2, the conclusion of the 9th story from Less Taken, Season 3. If you haven't listened to Part 1 yet, we highly recommend that you do so before moving on with this episode. If you're ready, in this episode, we'll finish exploring the horrific first-hand accounts of a family with foolish ambitions of turning a place known as the Sallie House into their Kansas dream home. And we'll also touch on where the house stands today. If you like the show, please subscribe, rate, review, and follow us before we follow you under the handle @lesstakenpod on Facebook and Instagram. For more information, please visit lesstakenpod.com. I'm Seam Humphreys, and this is Less Taken, real-life horror stories from the Midwest. Thanks again for listening, and I hope you enjoy Sally, Part 2. It's Halloween, 1993, and the Pickman family settles in for the evening. Tony is in the kitchen, preparing a late-night snack. The house is quiet, but there's an underlying tension that seems to permeate the air. He presumes this is simply the byproduct of one too many scares beforehand. As Tony reaches for a glass, he feels an inexplicable coldness. How can one house have so many drafts? He turns around, and there, standing in the doorway, is a little girl. Her eyes are wide and unblinking, and she seems to be staring directly at him. Tony's heart races as he tries to make sense of what he's seeing. Is this the same girl from the nursery? The girl doesn't move or speak. She just stands there, her presence both eerie and unsettling. Tony blinks, and in that brief moment, the girl vanishes. He stands frozen, the glass still in his hand, trying to process what happened. He calls out for his wife, Deborah, but his voice is shaky.
Did you see that?
Deborah comes into the kitchen, concern etched on her face.
See what?
She asks. Tony hesitates, unsure of how to explain. He says,
There was this little girl right there.
He points to the doorway. Deborah looks at him, her expression a mix of confusion and worry.
Tony, there's no one there.
Later, Tony sits on the couch, flipping through a magazine. A sharp pain stabs him in the arm. He looks down to see fresh, red scratches forming on his skin. He winces, trying to understand what just happened. Deborah soon rushes over, her eyes wide with concern.
Tony, what happened?
She asks, her voice trembling.
I don't know.
Tony replies, his voice shaky.
It just appeared.
Deborah examines the scratches, her face paling. There are scratches all across Tony's back, some deep, some shallow, some old, and many fresh.
With caution and also with history, the American Trio has changed. If you need the flexibility of rent-to-own homes with computers, shopinarents.com. Find out.
Tony is in the living room, watching TV. Without warning, the remote control flies off the coffee table and lands on the floor with a loud thud. He jumps up, looking around the room for any sign of what could have caused it. Deborah walks in, but quickly stops in place.
Did you see that?
Tony asked. When Deborah replies, her voice is barely a whisper.
It's happening again, isn't it?
Before they can process what's happening, a picture frame on the mantle tilts and then falls to the ground, shattering the glass. Tony and Deborah exchange a look of dread, knowing that the entity is making its presence known once more. Thoughts of moving out flood both of their minds. Either they're going nuts, or this place is truly haunted. Neither situation is ideal for raising Taylor, and they definitely don't think they're crazy. Deborah and Tony are in bed, trying to sleep. The house is quiet, but the sound of footsteps echoes in the hallways. Tony gets up to investigate, but finds nothing. As he returns to the living room, he sees what he thinks is a faint figure standing at the end of the hallway. This house seems to be plagued by shadows. The figure may very well turn out to be a lamp or something. His mind could also be playing tricks on him. Taking a few steps closer, it turns out the figure is a young girl, her eyes filled with sorrow. Tony loses his breath as he watches her slowly fade away. Peter James, a psychic known for his work on the television show Sightings, arrives at the Pigman house in Atchison-Kansas. With years of experience investigating paranormal phenomena, he's gained a reputation for his alleged ability to communicate with spirits and uncover the mysteries of haunted locations. Tony and Deborah reached out for help due to all the intense paranormal activity they've been experiencing. Tony himself has been subjected to physical attacks and other unexplained encounters, leading them to finally seek assistance from a paranormal investigator. The producers of Sightings catch wind of their story and contact Peter James. And now, the investigation ensues. Peter steps into the hallway, the air heavy, the house an eerie quiet. His footsteps are soft against the wooden floorboards, yet they still produce creaks on occasion. Shadows shift along the walls, cast by the dim light filtering in through the windows. He moves cautiously, senses on high alert, feeling the weight of unseen eyes. The house seems to breathe around him, its walls murmuring secrets. He pauses at the entrance of a small room when the temperature drops abruptly. Peter's eyes scan the room, taking in the old worn furniture and the faint outline of a child's drawing on the wall. He feels a presence, something watching him intently. Still, he finds nothing. But as he moves on from the room to inspect the staircase, he notices a small figure standing at the top. A young girl, her form translucent, just stands there, motionless. Peter's breath catches as he turns to face her fully. The girl looks at him with wide, sorrowful eyes, her presence both haunting and heartbreaking at the same time. Almost against his will, Peter whispers, "Sally?" The figure flickers, then dissipates, leaving Peter James and the Pigmans alone, the silence more oppressive than before. Peter stands at the bottom of the stairs, knowing that he has just encountered the spirit that haunts the Pigmans. Sally. Tony Pickman stands in the dimly lit hallway of their home, his nerves on edge. Deborah's in the bathroom, and Taylor is unusually quiet, perhaps sleeping for once. The silence should come as some relief, but it doesn't. As Tony leans against the wall, he feels a sudden stinging pain across his back. He winces and instinctively reaches behind him, his fingers brushing against fresh, raised welts.
Deborah!
He calls out, his voice strained. There's no immediate response, and the sense of isolation deepens. He can hear the faint sound of running water from the bathroom, but it does little to comfort him. Again, Tony's mind races as he tries to make sense of all that's happening. He knows there's no one else in the house. Yet the scratches are undeniably real. He feels a cold sweat break out on his forehead as he looks around, half expecting to see something lurking around the corner, cloaked by the darkness. Deborah finally emerges from the bathroom, her expression shifting from concern to alarm as she sees Tony's pale face and the fresh scratches on his back.
What happened?
She asks, rushing to his side.
I don't know.
He finds himself replying yet again. His voice trembles as he says,
It felt like something scratched me, but no one's here.
Deborah examines the scratches, her worry growing.
We need to get out of here.
She says, her voice firm.
This isn't normal.
Tony nods, the fear and confusion evident in his eyes. They both know that their new house holds its secrets. They're limitless, and the Pickmans can't figure out another way to evade them. Sorry to interrupt the story, but if you stick around to the end of this episode, we'll have a short sample of our next episode and the final episode before a short mid-season break called Kings Island Cemetery. So don't miss it. Be sure to stick around. Alright, back to Sally, part 2. Tony and Deborah Pickman stand in the living room of what becomes known as the Sallie house, the weight of their decision heavy on their shoulders. The house, once filled with hopes and dreams, now feels like a prison of fear and torment. Tony's back still aches from the latest scratches, a painful reminder of the forces hidden within these rooms. Deborah looks around, her eyes lingering on the walls that have witnessed so much terror.
We can't stay here any longer.
She says.
It's not safe for us or for Taylor.
They begin to gather their belongings, the sound of which is the only thing breaking the silence. As they pack, memories of countless nights filled with fear and confusion flood their minds. The apparitions, the voices, the physical attacks. It's all too real and too terrifying to ignore. With their bags packed, they take one last look around the house. Tony feels a mix of relief and sadness, knowing that they're leaving behind a chapter of their lives that isn't just a missed opportunity, but something that might forever haunt them. As they step out of the front door, the oppressive atmosphere lifts slightly, replaced by a sense of hope and perhaps freedom. Today, the Sallie House stands at 508 North 2nd Street in Atchison, Kansas. A seemingly ordinary house with an extraordinary reputation. Since the Pickmans left, the house has seen various tenants, each with their own experiences. Some tenants reported no paranormal activity and living in the house without any incident. Others, however, experienced similar disturbances to those faced by the Pickmans: apparitions, disembodied voices, and physical attacks. The house's reputation as a hub of paranormal activity grows, attracting ghost hunters and paranormal enthusiasts from around the world. In 2024, the Sallie House is a well-known haunted attraction. Visitors can tour the house, hoping to catch a glimpse of the supernatural. The house has been featured on numerous paranormal television shows, including Sightings, A Haunting, and Ghost Adventures. Deborah Pickman documented their harrowing experiences in her own book called The Sallie House Haunting: A True Story. In it, she recounts the terrifying events that plagued their family, from the day they moved in until the day they fled in fear. The book reveals untold stories of their entire ordeal, including Sally's seemingly protective fascination with her baby Taylor and the menacing entities that scratched, bit, and terrorized them. Despite the passage of time, the Sallie House remains a place of mystery, with its dark history and eerie legends continuing to fascinate and terrify those who dare to explore its haunted halls. Thank you for checking out Sallie Part 2, the 9th story from Less Taken, Season 3. Please let us know what you think of this story, or any of our episodes by leaving a fair rating and review wherever you're listening. You can also submit reviews at our official website, lesstakenpod.com. There you can check out our episodes, sources, additional media, and more. We've also got some new merch in the store and special discounts on hats and t-shirts. Right now, if you buy a hat, you can get a shirt for 15% off, but this sale ends come September. One more thing you can do on the site is scroll down to the bottom of the homepage and submit your ideas for future episodes of Less Taken. And be sure to follow us before we follow you on social media under the handle @lesstakenpod. You can find updates on Facebook, media and early previews on Instagram, the occasional post on Threads, and pretty much nothing on X. Next week, we'll share a preview of a story called Kings Island Cemetery. Stick around after this to hear an early sample. This will be the last story we tell before a short mid-season break, during which we'll drop some replays, perhaps a compilation. Come September, though, we'll be back in full force with a brand new story from Less Taken, Season 3. A quick note on our storytelling. While we do our best to stick to the facts, when we tell our real-life horror stories, we sometimes take creative liberties to maintain narrative cohesiveness. I'm Sam Humphreys, and this is Less Taken, real-life horror stories from the Midwest. Once again, thanks for listening, and I hope you join us next Wednesday for a preview of Kings Island Cemetery, the 10th story from Less Taken, Season 3. Stick around for a short sample. It's 1970. Construction at Kings Island Amusement Park is in full swing. Workers clear the land when they stumble upon something unexpected. An overgrown, forgotten cemetery. The discovery halts the construction as the workers try to make sense of what they found. The workers, clad in hard hats and reflective vests, are busy operating heavy machinery and clearing the dense foliage. The sound of bulldozers and chainsaws fills the air. Suddenly, one of the workers, a man named Jack, notices something unusual. He signals for the machinery to stop and calls over his supervisor. Jack points to a small, overgrown area that just seems out of place. The supervisor, curious, instructs the crew to investigate further. As they begin to clear the area, they uncover the first of many weathered tombstones. The discovery sends a ripple of excitement and unease through the crew. They realize they've stumbled upon a piece of history, long forgotten and hidden from the world. As they cleared the dense foliage, they uncover more tombstones, some barely legible. One of them catches their eye. Among them is the grave of a 5-year-old girl named Missouri Jane Galliner. And this discovery sends chills down their spines.